correctly with the correct amount.
D20 Radio, where gamers roll.
www.d20radio.com.
Welcome to Me and Steve Talk RPG, the podcast where me and my friend Steve try and help you get the most out of your role-playing game experience. Hey folks, welcome back to Me and Steve Talk RPGs. I'm Steve, and we're going to have some gaming talk here in a second, but before I get into all that, I want to let you know about another podcast here on the D20 Radio Network, and this week that's going to be the Genesis Archive. Now, this is an actual play podcast. It's a group of self-described nerds, artists, writers, and musicians collaboratively creating stories through a tabletop role-playing game called Genesis, which, you know, if you've listened to the show any amount, you've heard us talk about it. It's a good, fun system, and these people weave a really, really cool, really interesting story. Most of it is in a setting of their own creation they call the Unseen World. It is a modern fantasy set in Las Vegas. So think, some like Buffy elements, Dresden Files, that kind of thing. A lot of inspiration taken from mythology of, various historic cultures and all that stuff. But all in all, really good, really entertaining show, good role playing, just very, very good. So check them out. You can find them, pretty much all the podcatchers, Spotify, Google Play, Apple, all the places. But yeah, check them out, Genesis Archives, and then also, check out the D20 Radio Network. I believe our website is still under construction, but you can follow the link in our description or show notes and get to the Discord server where there's links to a bunch of other cool shows and all that stuff. So that being said, this year, the calendar kind of got away from me, and all of a sudden I realized, oh wait, it's getting to be almost PGX time. And so those of you who maybe haven't been listening to us for a while, Steve and I are both in the greater Pittsburgh area, and PGX, or the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo, is a local convention that's put on every year, usually right around beginning of October. And, this week we're going to be talking about PGX 2025, and joining me is Wizz, who is one of the organizers. So welcome back, Wizz.
Steve, thanks so much for having us, dude. And my calendar absolutely got away from me as well. And I'm so glad that you thought of this, because I would just been toiling away, working on show prep, and I'd be like, wait, did anybody talk to Steve?
Well, I'll be honest, it was your Facebook post of the billboard that made me go, oh, wait, that's in like a month or a month and a
half-ish. Yeah. It's coming up quick. It really is. Last year we didn't have a good crisis this year.
Right.
Last year we had a good crisis. This year it's just kind of like things were moving along, and other shows around us were having issues. And we were definitely like rah cheering on our colleague, our peers in the industry. And then next thing we know, it's like, holy crap, it's now mid-July. And now it's August.
Well, and look, I spend a lot of my time thinking about gaming and other fun things, but the reality is, I spend 50 plus hours a week at work plus commute. That makes the rest of the time go by so much faster. And, I know you have a day job in addition to being a dad and gaming and everything else. So like, I can only imagine how fast your time goes.
Yeah, I actually had somebody ask me the other day, I was apparently the topic of conversation at one point. And somebody's like, how does he do it? And the response was, I don't know. I just am afraid to ask because it might cause a glitch and he might stop. So, and I'm quite honest, I'm not entirely sure either. Between family and trying to still be engaged with the hobby, and not just be business about it, and then also be business about it. It does take quite a bit, but it's fun. I love the community. I know that everyone involved in this venture loves this gaming community that we've been building here in Pittsburgh, and that helps keep you in it. So,
Hmm. So, for anyone who's not heard us talk about it before or who's never gotten to attend the event, this is what, 3 days this year?
yeah, this will be a second year of 3 days.
Okay.
It's going to be I'll say this now. I don't think it's going to ever change. We did it once where it straddled September and October. We will never do that again. um, so it'll always be the first weekend in October. So this year it's the 3rd through the 5th
Okay.
of October. Yeah, and it's at the Monroville Convention Center. I guess it's an important bit of information there to
Yeah, well,
include. Yeah,
like, only helpful to know where people know where to go. I mean,
yeah,
mildly important, but and look, speaking as someone who this is the only thing close to a traditional convention that I go to regularly, but this is honestly, I'm going to call it a nerd fest, and I mean that in the best possible way. This is video games, both retro and modern, role playing games, arcade games, cosplay, tattoos, music. It is just a celebration of stuff that gamery people like to do.
That sounds like you almost read that right off of my website.
I didn't.
Like, it almost came right off of the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo website. Are you cribbing notes with Alex and Colt? Because
I actually, since Alex like had to do the thing with the shop, I haven't hung out with Alex since he moved shop.
yeah, no, but no, that's it. Yeah, you nailed it. When we originally conceptualized this show, we took inspiration from other shows in the region, and in the country for sure, because we believe if it's like being a game master, right? You're gonna steal all your best ideas.
It's just a matter of dressing them up enough that it isn't obvious.
Yeah,
Usually,
right. And these ideas hadn't been done in Pittsburgh, so we were like, you know what? There have been really cool nerdy things that have been done in Pittsburgh, but none of them have quite done this. So we're gonna do this, and it's everything that comes out of gaming. It's visual art, it's sonic art, it's tabletop gaming, pinball, arcade, and pinball in and of itself is an art form. It's like a classic car, right? The metal and the wood and the machinery all kind of coming together to create this overall sensory experience that you interface with as a game, but it really is art. And then quite literal art in the form of artists, tattoo artists, industry artists, music, inspired by video games or inspired by tabletop RPGs. It really is kind of everything that we could think of that swirls around this fandom of gaming that we could think of, and all kind of packed into 100,000 ish square feet at the Monroville Convention Center for 3 days. And I absolutely adore what everyone involved with this, myself, Alex, Colt, and the team have built. It is a labor of love for sure. And as corny as it sounds, for 3 days, I kind of get to walk around and think, wow, this is just a fraction of what Walt Disney felt. um, you see dads with their kids, and you watch a dad with his kid almost become the same age as like his 12-year-old kid in real time as they sit down to play games or play an arcade game or something like that.
yeah. Well, and I will say this, and for those who don't know, I've through my 3 or 4 years or however many years I've been going to this convention, I've gotten to know you, I've gotten to know Alex and Colt, who are the other two kind of heads of the organization, and I can say, knowing you guys somewhat and having been at the convention, you'll hear me on the podcast say sometimes one of the things I love about like the small indie RPG developers is they have this kind of attitude of, won't you come share my fun? And I really get that vibe from you guys and from this show. And I think that says a lot in and of itself. In that, look, I'm sure you guys don't want to do this for free, but it's not a purely for profit exercise. This is come share my fun and let's make enough money that we aren't losing. I'm,
Yes.
not to speak for you, obviously, but
Sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we try to be as accessible as possible. As a father myself, that's always kind of like forefront in like our philosophy of what we do as we approach this. We're a small business. We're mom and pop. Yeah, we just don't have a physical location every day of the year. We operate out of the convention center and but other than that, like yeah, it's try to keep costs low as best as you can to allow families to get to enjoy this stuff because that's just it. We want to share this fun with everybody and with the next generation. My kids are very much a part of this journey in the hobby with me, as a lot of the adults who work on this show are. And they're also at my table for D&D games or Shadow Dark or whatever we happen to be playing, and they're alongside adults at my table who are part of working on the show.
mhm.
So, yeah, it's definitely a community, and we want it to continue to feel that way, and that means a lot to me that you walk away with that, naturally, and that tells me we're doing something right. Because I've been to really big shows, I've been to really small shows, and sometimes that vibe ain't there,
Mhm.
and sometimes it is. There are other shows that do it, and they've got that vibe, and I love it. And those are the shows I want to go back to and work with and whatever. And then there's other shows where it's like, man, I feel like I just kind of hit the feeder bar.
Yeah. Well, the other thing too is like PGX is big enough to have a lot of stuff, but small enough that you don't have to worry about missing stuff. I feel like granted, I spend an inordinate amount of my time in the tabletop gaming area, but that's my thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I may not like last year. I didn't get to spend nearly as much time checking out the music as I had intended to, but I was playing games. So it was like, which fun do I want to have? I had to choose, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's a great problem to have, and it's funny because like out of my three kids, they all have they help out with the show in some way, shape, or form. But I kind of want them also to kind of like experience the show, and they all come back with wildly different experiences on this thing, and it's great to have options, where you can say, okay, well, I'm just gonna. I think you could walk into PGX with a plan and be like, I'm gonna hit this, 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 and this. Or you could walk into PGX with no plan and have equally fulfilling experiences and just say, well, I don't really have a plan. I'm gonna walk back into the tabletop hall and see what's got vacancies on the sign up sheet and sit down and play. Or I'm not even gonna plan that far ahead. And I'm just gonna go get lost in the arcade for 3 days and come up for oxygen when they tell me it's time to leave for the end of the day, and then go back and or just listen to music or not podcasts, but well, I guess you could. There are podcasts at the show, or panels or seminars, or there is a ton of stuff to do, and we try to do that every year. We try to really pack in as much content as we can because I feel like that's what people are asking for. And it's also, there's no way I could possibly say these four things are going to be absolute home runs, and every geek and gamer in the world or in the region is going to be into these things, and we don't need anything else
Right?
because the hobby's so broad. The fandom is so broad that you have to offer variety.
Hmm.
So,
Well, I think that's what makes it cool. And I like, to touch back though, on like you were talking about how it has such a community feel. I mean, that even I think goes to some of the guests that you bring in. If I'm not mistaken, I saw Paul Niemeyer's coming back again this year.
yeah, Paul Niemeyer, as far as I'm concerned, is PGX nobility.
But like, I know I ran into him when I was walking into the hall first for the first time last year, and we had a short conversation just like, hey, and and look, you brought him in. I think my first PGX was when you had him as like your major guest of honor person. And
Yeah.
that's the only way I've ever met him is at PGX. But he keeps coming back. And he's a cool dude. And I'm not saying, but like the fact that you have the Mortal Kombat cabinet artist coming back again and again says he's having a good time too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I've probably told this story before, but it's really kind of Paul's fault that we even have like industry guests. Because I don't know, we're rather humble. We kind of tend to underestimate ourselves, I think, a bit too. And I remember the year we brought Paul out, I didn't call Paul. Paul called me. And I thought, there's no way this is really the dude that he's saying he is, and proceeded to vet him. And I was like, wow, this is really the guy. It helped that he's good friends with somebody local
Mhm.
who I know very well and trust and will give me good information. But he proved to us that we could do that, that we were
Mhm.
a big enough deal that we could bring in guests. And so I told Paul, like, look, after that, you've got an open invitation to PGX every single year. You have the right of first refusal. If you don't want it, you just let me know. My feelings won't be hurt. But we're happy to have you out every year. And he keeps accepting the invitation. So, like you said, yeah, I guess he's having a good time. He must be having fun because otherwise, I figure he'd have turned it down by now. There's lots of conventions in the world, lots of conventions in the country. I'm
Mhm.
sure there's more than one on the weekend that we are. So he has options.
Oh yeah. So I know I've seen some postings on social media, but I don't keep up with social media all that well personally because it's tiring at times.
It is fatiguing. Yes.
But I have seen you've got quite the roster of like seen a bunch of what I think are like voice actor names and so forth coming out this year.
Yeah, so last year was the first time that we did voice actors, like industry celebrities, and it was a learning experience, to say the least, as all things are. But it was our first time really doing it. And we brought out some gentlemen from Red Dead Redemption, and we brought out Courtney Taylor, who is not part of Red Dead Redemption, the series. And I had a conversation with Courtney, and she said she would like to come back and that she thought that it would really be cool if we could bring out the cast of Mass Effect. And I'm a big Mass Effect nerd. Alex is a big Mass Effect fan nerd, maybe even bigger than me, because he's got like some commitments involved with Mass Effect in the form of tattoos.
But I'm sure if you ask him, Alex will tell you he hates Mass Effect.
Yeah, I'm sure he would tell you he
And
hates
for
Mass
those who
Effect.
don't know Alex, you don't get it.
Yeah. But yeah, so I was like, let's explore that. Let's explore that option. So we went to work, and the one big takeaway that I took from last year was we don't want to become a celebrity show.
Mhm.
That's not what we want to be. We want to be an industry show. We want to bring out people from the industry, but we want to be very sparing in that because we don't want it to overtake the entire show. Some people don't care about that at all, and that's fine. So we want to respect that. It also gives us some space. So I kind of made the decision, Colt and Alex, after we talked about it, we really want to focus on ensembles, and that was very apparent after last year with Courtney there. That man, it's really hard to put three people on stage to talk about something when the only thing they have in common is the industry of voice acting, but not any projects. So, being that it was a franchise that was beloved to us anyway, I'm like, yeah, let's do this. Let's do Mass Effect. And we went to work, and man, I am so excited for this year because I try not to be a fanboy about these things, but it's cool to get to meet people that are so in love with the thing that they worked on too, and are a fan of it. And you get to have them out, get to have people meet them. So, with all that being said, that's a very long-winded way of saying, yeah, we're bringing out a 5-member ensemble of Mass Effect, and that ensemble is the commander himself will be on deck, Commander Shepard, voiced by Mark Muir. Mark is such an awesome talent, has worked on tons of different projects, and he's super into the tabletop space. I know he does celebrity D&D and is very involved in Chaosium. So that's a great type of guest to bring to a show because they really do hit so many different elements of the show, as well as being very involved in such an awesome franchise as Mass Effect. So we have Mark Meer, we have the lovely Courtney Taylor is coming back, who is the voice of Jack. We have Ash Soroka, who was the voice of Tali Vos Normandy in Mass Effect. We have Ali Hillis is going to be joining us, who is the voice of Liara Tassani in Mass Effect. And we have DC Douglas, who is the voice of the enigmatic Legion from the Mass Effect series. They have massive, resumes, and I could just go. We could spend the whole show talking about that, but I
Right.
wouldn't do it justice either. So, but yeah, so that's who we have coming out as far as like an ensemble
Mhm.
goes, and I'm really excited about it. I can't wait to. I hope I can manage to pop into the panel and sit down and listen to it. And actually, that was another change that we made this year. Is another gentleman who's been a guest at our show. This will be now his third year, I believe, with a background in radio as well. Mr. John Riggs is coming back, and I asked him to come back specifically so that he could MC their basically run their interview and their panel for the show. So John will be back, and he will be handling that, and I can't wait to watch it. But yeah, I mean, we have a pretty good lineup. A pretty good lineup. I mean, but I actually think we have a great lineup of both tabletop industry guests and video game industry guests. Some returning names, some new ones, and some of the new ones I'm pretty stoked on too. If you follow Dungeon Tube at all, we've got Deficient Master coming out this year, and I love his content. It's super punchy, it's relatable, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and he's an all around really nice dude. I actually got to meet him in person at Baron DeRop's event, Green Dragon Fest. I actually got to play in one of Deficient Master's games, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. And just like his content on YouTube, that's kind of the vibe that he runs a game, with is it's fun, it's punchy, it doesn't take itself too seriously. And so he's going to be coming out to PGX, and he is going to be running tabletop sessions and doing some seminars as well with a bunch of other folks from the tabletop sphere, and it'll be it's going to be a good time. And then on top of that, we have JP Couvert coming out, and we have Ted from Nerd Immersion coming out for PGX, and some returning folks too. Kind of what to your point of Paul is with a lot of these guests, we try to we're trying to build a community that people want to return to, not just the attendees,
Mhm.
but we want the guests to feel like I want to go back there every year and see the new friends that I made and old friends that I made. And we're starting to see that develop on both the tabletop side of things and on the video game side of things. And I think that's a great thing
Oh
because
yeah.
everybody, they're not commodities, right? They're people. And you kind of want to commune with people that you only get to see once a year. You kind of want to do it over and over again. If you can.
Mhm. Well, I know, like, last year, I ended up through conversations, and you'll have people that meet in person after having worked on stuff together. Like, I know Paul and the Bryans found out that at least some of them had worked on stuff together that, "Well, hey, your stuff is really cool. Maybe we can work together on something."
Yeah. Yeah, and that may happen again. I probably should stop adding people named Brian to the show. But Brian Shutter's coming back, Brian Collin is coming back, and to further confuse things, Brian F. Collin is coming for the first time, who is the father of Rampage, among numerous other classic games. Rampage, maybe the one that he's most well known for. But yeah, so I'm gonna have Brian F. Collin and Paul Niemeyer in the same building, so that should be interesting to hear those conversations.
Yeah. I know, we talked to Brian Collin shortly before PGX last year, and then got to meet him at the show and play with him. Met Brian Shutter at the show. I just had him on a month and a half ago, maybe.
Yeah.
They're both really, really cool people. So yeah, I'll be glad to see them again. And gosh, it's
Yeah,
just it. Go ahead.
Brian Shutter has me, I mean, I'm excited to see them both, but man, Brian Shutter hit me with I can't remember if he announced it or not, so I don't wanna spoil it here, but he's working on something special for PGX with
Ooh,
Neon Lords of the Toxic
that is
Wasteland.
such a cool game, and it's cool because of the attitude and the vibe in the game.
Yeah, yeah. I've not had the opportunity. I picked up his core book and just about every other ancillary book to it that I could last year at PGX, and I love it. I love the style of it. It's evocative. He asked me, or he didn't ask me in his Discord the other day, and he was like, "All right, everybody, first song that comes to mind, blah blah blah," and obviously it's going to be in the theme of you know Neon Lords of the Toxic Wasteland. The first thing popped in my brain was Jesus built my hot rod, and I'm like, I think if I'm blazing away through the neon waste, yeah, I'm gonna be blaring some Jesus built my
Ministry,
hot rod.
White
Yeah,
Zombie,
Ministry, White Zombie.
Billy
Um,
Idol, some Billy Idol.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, it's just I love the vibe of it. But yeah, he asked me. Yes, it was probably around. It was probably around May or so. He sent me a message. He goes, "Hey, feel free to tell me no if you don't want to, but I kind of want to do something special for PGX. Do you care? Because it would involve your branding or whatever." And I was like, "Dude, that's very flattering. Like to me, that you would want to do anything involving PGX. Like I think." Neon Lords is so much bigger than what we're doing here. Like, I'm sure more people know what he's doing than what we're doing.
Well, yeah, but like, okay, to the point we were making about the feel and everything. Last year was his first year at the convention, so like, again, folks, it's a great time.
Yeah, it's humbling that when we talk to people who have been to some of these events that are they're on my bucket list of events I want to go to and I haven't gotten to yet. And a lot of these folks they've been around to all of them and then they come to PGX and they're like, dude, I love the vibe of this show. And some of it is the scale, right? We're not a 40,000 attendee show. We're in the ballpark of 10,000, and we're not quite at 10,000 yet, but it's gonna happen. And, that helps a bit, be able to, like, talk to people like human beings and not feel like you're on a conveyor belt, right?
Mhm.
But I think some of it also is the way we approach it too,
Mhm.
So, I mean, like, I'm walking my show floor, and I'm patronizing the vendors on the show,
Mhm.
Like, both Brian both Brians,
I was
I
there when
know.
you bought stuff from them, actually. I was standing there.
Yeah, I mean, it was Brian, DM Scotty, and Brian,
Yeah,
and well, actually,
I think it was Brian, and DM Scotty, but regardless, they were all next to each other.
they were all next to each other, and I'm like, "This is not gonna be good for Mo." 'Cause, like, I love all the stuff that they do, I mean, and so and I also respect the hell out of the work that goes into it, and I wanna support them, I wanna,
Mhm.
as much as I can, so I ponied up to the table, and I was like, I don't have any of your stuff, so, yeah, I'll get one of everything, please." Um and, with DM Scotty, I did have his core book, but then he had other stuff that had come out that I hadn't picked up. So I'm like, you know what? Let me get that. Oh, and by the way, I need you all to sign them because I'm weird like that. Like I want authors to to sign my books,
Mhm.
But yeah, it's awesome, and Brian. Brian Collin, man, he is just like I don't think I actually appreciated what a what a presence in the industry he is at the time. You
Mhm.
know, Brian Shutter introduced me to him, and I was at the time I was just kind of getting into the whole Borg sphere, so I hadn't yet discovered Vast Grim, and
Such a fun
yeah,
game.
I still to this day, because this year kind of got away from me, I haven't had an opportunity to run it. I think that's going to change, but I just took one look at his books and I was like, oh my god, I love this.
Oh,
It's like a site. It's like a site, supersonic, hypersonic, neon fever dream smashed with science fiction. My favorite science fiction series, and it's awesome. So
it
I grabbed everything and just got the screen actually not too long ago from him. So thanks for the screen, Brian. I'm definitely going to use it.
Yeah, no, Brian, like, if I could point to one person to me that personifies that share my fun, it might be Brian Collin. He is so much like he even said, when we had him on, talking with him at the show, like some of the stuff he makes, it's like, well, I would have thought this was cool as hell when I was 12 or 14, so I'm gonna make it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think that is probably, yeah, I mean, this is predominantly a tabletop RPG podcast. So we should probably spend some time talking about tabletop RPGs. Um, I love what is occurring in in the tabletop RPG hobby. It's just like the OGL sucked and it was awful, and I definitely worried about some people that I gave a damn about how that was going to work out. But I kind of think we're better for it now. It definitely galvanized some communities. It definitely galvanized some product lines to be innovative and make sure that they weren't too tied up to any overlord or whatever. And there's a lot of games getting played or not Dungeons and Dragons. Don't get me wrong, I still run D&D from my home table. It's like my core game right now is the original 5th edition still, but I absolutely love opportunities to play boutique games from small mom and pop publishers like Vast Grim, Neon Lords, Shadow Dark, Morkborg, Pyroborg, Vast Grim, uh, Death, Death in Space, and Cyborg, and Easy D6 and Index Card RPG. So much has come out of the hobby in the time since I first started playing tabletop RPGs back when I was a kid, and really it was in my awareness, it was just Dungeons and Dragons. That was it, and some cool board games here and there, like Hero Quest or whatever. But now it's like pick your flavor. What do
Hmm.
you want? Do you want to go on a wild Guardians of the Galaxy style romp? Cool. Grab Vastgrim, and you're gonna have a lot of fun with it. If you want the really gritty metal, style D&D, then grab Morkborg, which, by the way, I shout out Mork, talking about creators, and they're not going to be at the show, but I had an opportunity to meet them earlier this year at kind of like another show that's near and dear to us out in Philly called Too Many Games. I got to meet Johan and Pell,
Oh,
and
cool.
what awesome dudes. And of course, I made them sign my copies. Actually, I didn't have my copies of Cyborg and Morkborg, so I bought 2 more and made them sign them. Um, and but yeah, it's just like the hobby now transcends country, creed, I mean, like I'm hanging out talking with Johan and Pell at another show about Daggerheart, which again, yeah, Daggerheart's massive, but it's kind of taken the scene by storm right now. But think about how that group got going.
Hmm.
Like, you know, I
It
don't
was a
know how,
birthday gift, actually.
yeah. So I mean, it it's just Yeah, I love that. I remember back in the day when you only spoke of tabletop RPGs in quiet, secret places, and you didn't say it too loud because the jocks would hear you, or the PTA group would hear you, and you, you'd have to worry about it. Or you'd have one person at your table be like, "Look, if my mom asks, we weren't playing Dungeons and Dragons. We were doing something else. We were shooting each other playing GoldenEye, because that's way less, violent." Yeah, I mean. And now it's very, very approachable and inclusive, and the community is more diverse than I think it ever has been, but maybe not at the same time. Like, I think now it's just so visible that we realize how diverse it is,
Mm-hmm.
and how diverse it's always been. And like my wife and I were talking about this earlier, and she is a ethnic minority, and she got into tabletop games through me, but not even really. Like, she was saying, like, "Oh no, my dad absolutely got me into Dungeons and Dragons," and I were like, "Okay, but I know you never played before until like we met." But her point was, her dad was the one that had her watching Lord of the Rings, and like the Ralph, last name's escaping me at the moment. The animated films for Lord of the Rings, and Conan and Crawl and all those films. And she was a little girl. She's like, "I want to be an elf. That's what I want to do. I want to be a cool, badass, fictitious character." And then we met, and she goes, "Oh wait, this dude, he plays D&D." And like, very briefly, she got introduced to it in college, and then once PGX started to manifest, I decided to put together a tabletop group
Mm-hmm.
from a couple of my friends who help with the show, including my wife and my kid. And that was back in, I want to say, that all started in like 2018 with them. And so she plays at my table, her sister plays at my table, and my kids, and three of our other friends. And we've had public tables at Game Masters, Phil Shop Game Masters, where it was also a very diverse group of people. And like, that was never my experience growing up playing it. It was, five kids, high schoolers, who all relatively had similar lived experiences, similar cultural backgrounds. And, I kind of, you hear the narrative a lot of, "Oh, well, this is just a hobby for insert a monolithic demographic." It's just not the case necessarily, as much as that
No.
narrative paints it. And I love that. I love that, one of the most preeminent franchises in tabletop history, which is Cyborg, is written by somebody who's an ethnic, minority, Mike Pondsmith.
Yeah.
And he's deeply respected in the industry. He's provided something amazing to all of us, and there's more and more of that coming out. I mean, I have a book on my shelf over there, Coyote and Crow, which
Mm-hmm.
is about indigenous. It's based on indigenous peoples.
Believe the whole team behind the whole team behind Coyote and Crow is indigenous creators. I backed it. I think I only backed it at the PDF level, but I did back it when it was on Kickstarter.
Yeah, it's a cool game. It's a interesting concept, and I don't see it slowing down anytime soon either. I think you have so many new things coming out, but that are also classic at the same time, like Shadow Dark. I absolutely adore Shadow Dark, and I adore what Kelsey has created, in that it feels so evocative of like the old school, but not. It's like, my kids grew up playing 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
And my kids are really flexible. Like, they will try other things. They've they've like played Dungeon Crawl Classics, which is not a lighter system really than
No.
5e. Especially when you get into Magic users, it's not lighter at all. But my kids have tried that, and they're like, "Yeah, we'll try it." You Shadow Dark, and they're like, "Wait, this is the nuts and bolts of 5th edition here." And but they quickly learned that it is not 5th edition. You
Well,
know,
I think too, though, like you're talking about, the diversity and whatever, and when it gets down to it, this is creative storytelling. There's no
right?
limit on that, right? Like it doesn't matter if you're, a 40-something bearded white guy sitting in your basement, or if you're anything. We can all just have fun and tell stories together. And I think, like you talk about how your kids will adapt to anything. I think at some point, if you start looking at specifically for tabletop role playing, right? Think about it. And the best line I've ever heard from this came from Jim Davies, WebDM fame. He says he likes to tell new players, play the world, not the numbers on your character sheet.
That's great advice. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, it's true. A- and I do think the game helps with that, depending on what you're running to a
Yes.
degree.
Yes.
For sure. Because so I'm usually in the seat where I am right now, running the game, and I love being in that place. Like my father was a storyteller when I was a kid, but he would just tell stories. He would just make them up. We'd be sitting on the porch, and he would just make up a story. And I've never really had that gift, except for when it's behind the screen. It kind of I do better, collaboratively, and it kind of allows me to have that relationship with that experience with my kids and my friends. And it's the the game, the rules will kind of influence or inform, right, the type of play or experience you're going to have to a degree. But the character sheet, the dashboard, as I like to call it,
Yeah.
will impact the style of play, especially for newer players, less experienced players,
Mm-hmm.
far more than I think I realized until I started realizing, like, hey, not every solution, especially with 5e players, right? Not every solution is going to be codified on your character sheet.
Right. Right.
You need to think outside of that. But it's really hard when you have 30 options and all these stacked and staggered different features that, kind of like trigger in a cycle or whatever. And it really became evident to me just how unintentionally restricting a really broad character sheet is once my family and friends started playing. One, Dungeon Crawl Classics, 0 levels, a 0 level grinder because there's nothing on that character sheet almost. And then Shadow Dark. We started playing Shadow Dark, and it was a very lean character sheet, and they had a lot of fun with it. And then what really was eye opening to me, and it really wasn't like, it was something I kind of suspected, but I hadn't really put it to the test yet. So you and I had been talking before we started recording, like how I'm starting to record my personal games. So I had made a change to the setup, and I wanted to test it out with one of my kids and to make sure that the mic levels were good and picking everything up. I'm like, well, how am I going to do this in a meaningful way? I figure I want to do this for like 30 minutes, record this for 30 minutes, but I had nothing. And I'd recently had an opportunity to be a player in a game of Morkborg at Free RPG Day at Phil's, and had a blast with it because it was super lean. And I told her we're gonna play D&D. And she's like, but I don't have a character sheet. It doesn't matter. We're gonna play D&D, and we're gonna play like Morkborg, but it's D&D. You know what that is. And this is like my 14-year-old. And she's like, okay. And I jumped onto their website and I fired up Dungeon Gen and just created some prompts like for inspiration, and proceeded to run her through a solo adventure without a character sheet in front of her, with nothing. The only concept of the character she had was whatever she came up with, and whatever she had at her disposal was whatever she decided at the moment she had. So kind of like manifesting things right out of the thin air, and knowing that the core mechanic for Morkborg was roll a 12 or better.
Right.
And went from there, and we played D&D for a half an hour that way. And at the end I asked her, I'm like, so what'd you think of that? That was so awesome not having a character sheet. I felt so free to do whatever I wanted to do. And she loved it. I was like, man, that character sheet does get in the way.
Well, I
You know?
wonder. And I'll ask you this because we're of similar age, I think. I don't know
Mhm.
specifically, but I wonder too, though.
Both very young men.
Yes, 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 absolutely. Um, but you and I think both, at least to a certain point, came to tabletop role playing games before the real advent of computer RPGs and video games.
Yeah, they were very much in their infancy.
Like
Uh,
I told Steve on an episode, on a last episode or a couple episodes ago, like to me, Final Fantasy was kind of like D&D, but on the Nintendo.
yeah,
you know,
yeah,
and I wonder if there's a difference in approach because I have heard people before say that, if you think of it, the character sheet is like your UI for
yeah,
the tabletop game. But because people, even say 8 years younger than us, may have come into video games more first, if
yeah.
that mentality of this is what it says I can do, so that's what I'm supposed to do, isn't stronger just because of the experience you've had in life.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was weird. So the experience for me getting into tabletop games was a little bit more fragmented. Um, I was definitely exposed to the art and the products of tabletop RPGs before video games, but I didn't actually experience tabletop RPGs until after the Nintendo had come out.
Mhm.
Um, and so how it worked out for me was my father was an avid reader, hence why he was probably such a good storyteller. Avid reader, and he loved going to the bookstores. Back in the day, you'd recall there was a used bookstore stuck in every little
Oh, I
nook and
missed
cranny.
them so badly.
Yes. And they were awesome little treasure trolls. Heck, one of the greatest movies of our childhood, The Never-Ending Story, revolves around a used bookstore. But he would go to the used bookstores, and he'd let me wander, and I'd look, and I'd be like, "Oh man, the art on these books are so cool." And I didn't understand. Like I'd crack it open, and it was like arcane texts. Like I didn't understand all the tables and the formulas and any of that stuff. I didn't even know what I was looking at. And then I wasn't like a real big reader as a kid, and it was AD&D stuff. It was red spines,
Mhm.
or I mean, orange spines, and and he would never let me buy them, but he'd let me look at them. And then eventually, in the early '90s, late '80s, there was a hobby shop in Bellevue, which is a suburb just outside of Pittsburgh, called Rainbow Hobbies, I think is what it was. And they had a game in there, really cool looking game called Dragon Quest. And I wanted it so badly, and he finally got it for me. And it was basically a learn to play AD&D boxed set game, where I think it was bridging generations between second edition and AD&D. And that was really my first foray into it. My friends and I played all the pre-generated characters and whatnot. So, but that being said, what we were able to do in our imagination so much more versatile than what Final Fantasy 1, 2, or heck, even the ones on the Super Nintendo, 4 or 2 and 3 at the time on those consoles. Now we know that those are 4 and 6, or Dragon Quest, those games. You had so much more versatility in what you could at the table over those games.
Right.
Whereas now, I mean, heck, what's one of the biggest games of the last 2 years? Baldur's Gate 3. And it's a massive hit because of the infinite different outcomes and possible things that you can attempt to do in a video game. And all you got to do is just press buttons. You don't have to actually, I mean, to a degree, you got to come up with like the creative ideas and solutions, but it's all just responding to pre-generated prompts for social interactions and things like that. Whereas tabletop RPG, there's no pre-written prompts or scripts. I mean, there are if you're running pre-generated content, but that stuff can all go out the window You
Yeah.
know?
And to me, that's the beauty of tabletop is that it's literally limited by the imagination sitting around that table, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think back to the original point was, I think, at least in my experience, what I've seen is those imaginations get unshackled when you reduce the amount of data that is presented in front of them with a character sheet. And if you just distill it down to, I love the idea of like, okay, here's your background job that you had before you were an adventurer. I'm not going to tell you what skills that gives you. You're going to have to think about it.
Mhm.
You're going to have to think, okay, um, I'm a gong farmer. Well, first of all, what is a gong? Those of you who don't know out there, you're the latrine guy. But excuse me. I'm a gong farmer. What sort of special experiences might I have had that maybe make me well suited to being a thief? Well, you're not afraid of fetid, vile, disgusting, small, cramped places, maybe. Maybe you're willing to squeeze into the places that nobody else is going to, or that the paladin in plate mail armor or shiny plate mail is not going to go into. And you can do it without hindrance, maybe,
Mhm.
because you explain that to the game master and they're like, oh, I like what you're doing. Yeah, let's do
Mhm.
that. Let's keep going with that. You know, but if you have a character sheet that says, "Oh, well, yeah, your background's gone, but like you don't have you're not good at acrobatics or whatever." Yeah, like there's some limiting factor on your character sheet. Well, you're just gonna have a natural inclination to lean away from.
Right, right. Yeah, it is. And that's a whole thing because, and I had a conversation with somebody fairly recently. We were talking about, he was talking about playing games at conventions specifically with creatives that have worked on those games. And he said it almost seemed to him that a lot of times, and this as a GM, a lot of times you kind of, oh, this is cool. We're just gonna play it out and see how it works, and we're going to forget about the rules for a little while. And he said a lot of times if you play with people who have worked on the games, they do that even more. And I wondered, and I told him this at the time, I said, I wonder if some of that is because in the structure of the rule book, those rules, whatever, are put there to guide you into the feel that the creators wanted the game to have.
Yeah.
Well, when the creators are the ones running the game, they know what that feel is, and sometimes it's hard to put the feel into words. You know, Neon Lords is an amazing example of the book dripping attitude. You mentioned Mike Pondsmith, Cyberpunk 2020, just such an amazing amount of vibe in the book. And it's not just the words, it's the font, it's the art, it's
Yeah.
the everything. And I don't like it's somehow the ensemble is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree with that. I had a really awesome experience earlier this year where I got to step out of the GM role. And like free RPG day is always because it's one of those days that and I get an opportunity to play different things, but free RPG day you never kind of know what you're going to get.
Mhm.
And I had the opportunity this year to go down to uh, Green Dragon Fest, which is run by Baron Durop. It was the second one, and I didn't quite know what I was getting into. Like I knew it was going to be a cool experience. I knew it was going to be games being run, as you just said, some by their creators. And man, did he had a group of people down there. Kelsey Dion of Shadow Dark was down there. Um, Justin Alexander of So You Want to Be a GM down there running the game. Professor Dungeon Master, Deficient Master, Alex Alvarez of Index Card RPG. He helped with that, and DM Scotty, and a bunch of other folks. And so I got to do just that. I got to sit down and play at Alex Alvarez's table, and he was very involved with Index Card RPG, and he ran Index Card RPG. This is a book that I have. It's a game that I have, and I've never run. And I'll tell you what, now that I've played it and I've played in Alex's game, I now understand what I was missing in that. And, you know, Hanker Furnell did a great job with that game. Like the production quality on that is amazing. Thematically, it drives it home, but there's something about experiencing it as opposed to reading the pages on the page and, you know, maybe inserting your own tone unintentionally or your own philosophical bias towards the hobby unintentionally. And the games that I got to play at Green Dragon Fest were amazing. They it was probably some of the best D&D air quotes I've ever gotten the privilege of playing in.
Mm-hmm.
And it was because the people running the games understood the assignment. They understood the vibe. And everybody at the table was 100% dialed in and they were there for it. And like I laughed until I gave myself migraine. You know, I mean, I just had a ball. And it really was like Alex was moments. I remember Alex was like, you know, I'm just gonna we're gonna barter right now. We are going to have a negotiation on how this is gonna work, and this is what I'm willing to let you do, and this is what I'm willing to incur upon you for it. And we just swung for the fences and we went for it. And Index Card RPG is very similar to Shadow Dark in that it has a very in workboard and all it has a very lean, you know, dashboard. It's
Mm-hmm.
very lean. And you know, I'd never played in it before. I'd never run it before. So I had a couple of questions, but you know, Alex just answered them really quickly and he's like, just go for it. Just do the thing. And it was great fun. And you know, DM Scotty, Easy D6, I love that game. I've run it once, maybe twice, but I've never played in it. And again, it's the same sort of thing. And like the core book for him for Easy D6 is more fantasy based. He ran Rangers in Space, which was like kind of like a you know, Orwellian, you know, Roddenberry Star Trek romp type deal. And you know, he was like, dude, make up your characters. And I made Brannigan Jr. Absolutely tried to play that character to the hilt, you know, and
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it was a lot of fun. And the rules, they matter, but they didn't have to get in the way. And
Mm-hmm.
the person at the table who was an expert at the game because they made it or had a heavy hand in making it, it never felt like the rules were being kind of like thrust upon you.
Mm-hmm.
It was either the rules help facilitate the telling of the story or they get the hell out of the way.
Exactly. And I think to kind of circle this back around a little bit, I think that's the valuable thing about going to conventions, whether it's a Green Dragon Fest or PGX. You can get to play games with creators, or even if you just get to play a game that you've been curious about, or you get to play with a different GM. It can open your eyes to, oh wait, we can do this in a game, and
Yeah.
this, you know, air quotes, this isn't anything specific. It may just be something you never thought of before.
Yeah. Well, right, and it's why writers should read a lot of books, and movie makers should watch a lot of movies, and they should also read a lot, and you should watch a lot of television. You know, you should say it more eloquently. You should consume a lot of stories,
Right.
and you know that goes for tabletop RPGs as well. You know, like you don't be. I mean, you could, I guess. I don't want to speak in absolutes, but my having opportunities to be exposed to other imaginative players has made me a better, more imaginative player.
Mm-hmm.
And whether I'm experiencing them as a game master or as a player, it informs my play.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I think it is a valuable experience to get to sit down at a table and play with strangers.
Mm-hmm.
I, I went to MagFest by myself essentially, and I was like, I really want to learn. I play the One Ring. I have it at home. I love Tolkien. I want to see how the game plays. I sat down at a table with total strangers, and we had a great time. And same thing at Green Dragon Fest. I went with Colt. So the only person I knew at Green Dragon Fest as a player was Colt, and that was it. And we played at a bunch of tables with other people who I'd never met before, or game masters that I maybe met once, or maybe had a phone conversation with, and it was a ton of fun, and it was
Mhm.
really, really insightful. And it taught me a lot about like timing and playing off of other people. Like, because that's a big part of this hobby too, is don't be the lone wolf, stand alone. I don't need, gameplay for inspiration. Like, absolutely look to your other players and see what they're doing, and how can I enhance that by just leaning into it, by saying, okay, I see what you're doing and I'm gonna get on board.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So, as much as I have thoroughly enjoyed our little tangent here, and we could go on with this for quite a while, I can tell, because I've
Yes.
talked with you a few times before. um, Sign-ups as far as running games for the convention, how long are they open? I know I literally finally remembered to submit a game to run, I think earlier today, or well, technically yesterday, but that's time dilation thing, you
Yeah.
know. Uh,
So we are getting down to the wire, and I don't know if it's gonna go air. I know it's not
t-
live.
no, this will drop the 26th of August.
There may still be time
Okay. I know there
to
was nothing
submit.
indicated on the website when I
Yeah.
went on there saying when they closed.
Yeah. Yeah, it really comes down to when we run out of blocks, and when we run out of, because other shows will do it differently. They'll say, "Hey, this is what you're going to run," and then you run it, or they'll bring in a publisher will get so many different slots, and then they'll bring in a crew of people to run games. Ours, going back to that community vibe that we were talking about, really, it's like, what do you want to run? We're not going to give you any. We're not going to tell you what to run. I've gotten that question a bunch of times. What do you want me to run? I don't want you to run anything. I want you to run what you want to run.
Well,
Um, so as people submit, and obviously, like, priority blocks go to like our featured guests, right? So like Brian and Brian are going to be games. Bob Robo, Grace World Destroyer are going to be, they're going to be running games. Deficient Master will be running games. And I feel like there's JP Covert and Ted, they'll be running games. So they're that's only a handful of people, and we have lots of tables.
mhm.
So I would say, worst case scenario, I would submit your application to run a game, submit your session, and then what we do is, if you don't get selected for this year, we go back and we pull all the emails addresses that we receive submissions from. And then when we are getting ready to open Game Master applications for 2026, you will be among the folks who get an email to say, "Hey, submit to run your game."
Mhm.
So, um, and the one piece of advice I will give to is, if your submission is well thought out and fleshed out and detailed, and you're willing to run more session, that is gonna obviously help us out. So we will give that, some consideration as well.
Yeah.
So being able to run multiple sessions on multiple days is very desirable.
B
So
by the way, then I'll have to email JD because I didn't see a box to check for that in the application.
yeah, yeah. So we probably need to clean that up a little bit. But yeah. So essentially, if you're going to run multiple sessions, you just make multiple submissions.
Okay.
Or if you're going to run the same thing more than once, you can just, when in the synopsis at the very beginning, you could just put it at the very top, like, "I will run this adventure multiple times if
Okay. Yeah, I'll
need
I'll
be."
get a hold of JD one way or another because I think that's who
Yeah.
the contact person for that was.
Yeah.
Can I share a story with you about
Sure.
last
Please
year?
do.
So 2 years ago, I ran a game called Havoc Brigade, which is this wild, crazy chaos fest of a game. And I had a blast with it, and so I put it down as something I was willing to run again last year. And as it turns out, I don't know if it was time slot, whatever, I didn't get anybody signed up for it. I think that was maybe Friday night. I had was supposed to run that. And okay, so I ended up playing something else and had a good time. So then Saturday morning, I walk in and I happen to recognize one of the people I had run Havoc Brigade for the previous year, checking out the games on the table and asking, hey, you know, is there anybody that can take 8 players? Because as a background, the way it happened was I literally ran the game for an entire home group. Okay. So Saturday rolls around and I recognize, I'm like, hey. And they're like, I said, and like look, let's be honest, most convention games, I generally don't prefer to run past about 6 players because it's just too much.
Well, right. Yeah. You're on a time crunch.
But I heard them and I said, look, I said, I'm not trying to twist your arm. I said, but I will offer, if you would like, I can run Havoc Brigade for you again. The only thing that's going to happen is because there's 8 of you, couple of you, there's going to be duplicate characters because I only have 6 pre-gens. And they were like, oh, hell yeah. And so I ended up running this number of sessions I signed up for, just not at the time. But it was like, oh, yeah, we played that game with you last year. We had fun. Let's do it again.
That's awesome.
So like it is like I've never been to Gen Con, but I get the impression that the gaming at, say, a Gen Con or an Origins is very structured because it has to be at that scale.
I can't even imagine how you run a Gen Con or Origins. It's so much.
But like you guys are small enough that to look, could just anyone walk in there and throw a pickup game together and pull it off? Maybe, but it can happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and like those are special moments too. Like
Right.
those are, to be, because I've heard other stories like that actually, where about PGX JD, who you'd spoken of earlier, it told me, he goes, yeah, we had people just asked like, hey, is there anything going on that table? And he would check and be like, no. He's like, can I just run a pickup game? And he's like, yeah, please do, go for it. And people sat down and played in this person's random pickup game. I don't even know what they ran, but I know that it happened and I didn't receive complaints about it. So obviously they must have had a good time. And I dig that because that sort of organic, spontaneous opportunity to engage in a tabletop RPG session you'd have a difficult time creating that opportunity, that set of circumstances at a tabletop local store.
Mm-hmm.
Because there might be like 12 people in the building at the time, and half of them aren't going to be interested in what you're doing, and the other half may not have time.
Right.
So, that is something that really can only happen that way at an event like ours, because everyone's a lot of people that are there are primed for, well, I don't know what I'm going to do today, but I'm going to play some games.
Right. Yeah, that's all right. Well, since we both probably ought to go get some sleep because it's now tomorrow 30, let's we've talked a little bit about games. You mentioned the arcade. I'm assuming you're going to have something arcade collective, Pittsburgh Arcade Collective.
Yeah, so Pittsburgh Arcade Collective is going to be back. They're awesome. They're very dear to us. They are bringing a couple hundred, 150, 160 to 200 arcade and pinball machines. Will have approximately 200-ish machines between Pittsburgh Arcade Collective, Mad Pinball, Retroware. We have some really cool collaborations going on, like we always do. Bringing arcade and pinball machines, they'll be there. We're gonna have our fleet of retro consoles out, and we have some awesome contributors that are just enthusiasts. They don't have like a moniker to attach to it, but they just like, there's a buddy of ours down in DC or down in Maryland. His name's Brian as well. Another Brian. And he brings up this fleet of really cool like retro consoles with these really cool flat panel tube. I mean, they're CRTs, I guess. They might be LCDs, but they're like in these red housing. They're gonna be bringing those up. And we're also working with Sanctum Esports this year. They're going to be putting on some FGC stuff, fighting game competition stuff, along with our crew that does it as well. So if you like fighting game, video game tournaments, and you need to take a break from slinging dice for a little bit, you can do that. We have, I should probably go over this list, a couple more of these folks that are not tabletop centric that we're bringing in that I'm really excited about. The immortal John Hancock, big Coleco or Activision or retro video game collector. We're finally getting John Hancock out to PGX this year. I've been trying to for the last couple of years. I'm excited to finally get him out this year. The Tech Buzz booth, broadcast booth, will be back with a crew of very lively personalities such as LL Cool Games and Dr. Scott and Game Dad and Johnny Graphics. I mentioned earlier Brian Collin, the creator of Rampage, Xenophobe, Arch Rivals, Pigskin, and General Chaos, will be with us. And if you like claw games and games of chance, Arcade Matt, he was with us last year for the first time, and he loved the show, and his booth was always popping. Like he brings his own claw game machine, and people really seem to engage with that. And back on like the video game like hardware side of things, Guys Games and Beer are coming back this year. I talked with Tom, and he was super excited to come back, and was like, "Well, I actually have some open space for you this year, so you can do more." And he goes, "Oh, you can do more?" I'm like, "Yes, we would like you to do more." So they're bringing back the Steel Battalion pod of, I think it's like 8 to 10 players Steel Battalion setups. And if you don't know what Steel Battalion is, back in like the 90s, we all got for tech or for mechs. And there were like Armored Core games like that. Well, Steel Battalion was a game for the Xbox that had this full control array that puts you in the pilot seat of this battlefield mech, with the pedals and switches, and there's a whole process for firing up the mech. It's very involved, very in-depth simulation. Well, they have the largest collection of them, and they're meant to be played multiplayer. So they network 8 to 10 of these suckers together, and you play 4v4 or 5v5, and just wreaking havoc on each other, blowing your mechs apart. Well, on top of that, they also do retro. They do some really cool stuff like network play of Quake on original IMAX, and they apparently have this version of called Cursed Halo that is like all like the physics and the weapons and everything are kind of like bonkers and off the wall. So they're going to be bringing that stuff, and I'm really excited about it. Plus, they're bringing in the Vectrex arcade cabinet, which is just a really neat fan project. So they took a Vectrex and built it into an arcade cabinet, which was never a thing, but they built it into an arcade cabinet, and they created this mechanized system for swapping the overlays on the screens of the Vectrex.
Oh, wow.
So like if you ever played a Vectrex or ever saw it, it's a vector display. It does display limited graphics, but not a ton. So certain things were you couldn't establish on the screen, like the play field necessarily. So they had these like plastic overlays, kind of like the overhead projectors that we had in school that would show the images, kind of like that material, except you overlay it on the screen. And all of a sudden you have this reference point of like a play field of whatever the game's objectives are. Well, they created a system where you select the game and it selects the overlay, which is pretty neat. I never seen anything like that. So, yeah, he's coming, or they're coming, their crew's coming. Neoness, who will be new to the show this year, avid Neo Geo collector. Great content on YouTube. If you don't know much about Neo Geo and you want to, his channel is a great option for that. If you are a collector and you want more information on the hobby, or you just somebody kind of gush over it, I recommend him. And another local Pittsburgh legend in the whole YouTube video game sphere, who I'm happy to have back, is Mark Bussler of Classic Game Room. He'll be back. He's relaunching his Classic Game Room project this year as an animated project, and he's going to be coming to talk to us all about that. And I'm looking forward to that. Mark's stuff is really cool, and I miss Classic Game Room. Classic Game Room is probably in no small way responsible for the trajectory that ended up resulting in PGX existing. So, yeah, I mean, and there's tons more folks on here. I could just go over this list for a while, but yeah, check it out on the website. There's people on here that are people on our list that aren't even on the website yet. I need to get that updated. And then we have music.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's the one part we haven't really talked about yet.
Yeah, so we haven't even really gotten to music yet. And so we actually have, I think it's 7 acts this year, maybe more. So we've always referred to it as the PGX concert series. Problem with the series is it needs to occur more than one time, and it's always just happened on Saturday. So there's always been a desire for us to do it on more than one. So we decided this was going to be the year. So last year we extended to Friday. We had Friday as part of the show. We never had a Friday, day before, but we didn't have live music last year on Friday. Well, once we saw how successful Friday, we said, you know what? Let's move some live music. Let's book some live music for Friday, and then we'll book live music for Saturday as well. So on Friday, the lineup, I'm actually pretty stoked on it. If you're a D&D guy, if you like Dungeons and Dragons metal, Friday's your night. On the main stage on Friday at 9 p.m., our headline, after a long absence, is the one, the only, the near and dear to my heart, Bethlehem. Love these guys. They are absolutely the best parts of Dungeon Crawl Classics, old school D&D, and probably a healthy dose of Morkborg, all kind of smashed into a metal band. And they just bring it every single time. They're a ton of fun. And they're actually working on a really cool project that they've actually asked for my input on.
Now,
And,
are they public about who they are, or are they in character like Guar of the old days?
I mean, they're definitely in character. Yeah, I mean, like when they're on stage, they are in character for sure. They're not. Their faces aren't all concealed, so I think it's probably fairly easy to figure out who they are.
Well, like I didn't want to just, and I'll edit this out if this isn't cool, but one of the organizers of the show is part of Bethlehem, if I'm not mistaken. Am I correct?
Yes. Yeah. Colt Headwind. Yes, he is part of Bethlehem. He was not originally, when we started this venture, part of Bethlehem.
Oh, okay.
Or he had just recently become part of Bethlehem.
Okay.
He's also part of another local metal band here, Greywalker.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he's part of Bethlehem, and yeah, he loves it. It's awesome, and those guys are great. They've definitely allowed me to feel very welcome among them and see some behind the scenes of some of the videos that they're shooting and some other projects that they're working on. So I can't wait to see them on the stage again at PGX. The next one that we have on the line is Owlbear, which again, very D&D. It's in the name, right? Owlbear. Very D&D inspired metal band. I've never seen them before. This will be their first time at PGX, but it felt like a very natural pairing to have them and Bethlehem open up the show on Friday night. So Owlbear will be at 7 p.m. on Friday. Bethlehem will take the main stage at 9 p.m. And then moving on to Saturday, our headliner, again, we're pretty excited about this, is if you are into the Mega Man and into hip hop, or video game, music in general. Mega Ran is going to be our headlining act on Saturday at 8 p.m. Next is going to be returning to PGX once again. A very dear friend of ours, actually, at this point, is Danimal Cannon. Will be performing at 7 p.m. And next is Katie Shesko. She is a, I'm probably using the wrong term here. A flutist. She plays the flute. She plays flute covers of video game music, and
Well,
it's
that's
awesome.
cool.
Last year she was a wandering minstrel at PGX. She hit us up and she said, "Hey, I just want to play music at PGX. Like, I don't care like if I'm in the rotation on the stage. Can I just come and play music for everybody?" Like, yeah, absolutely. So she just kind of wandered around the hall and played her flute. This year we have actually given her, we're able to get her in the time slot. She's going to do live performance on Saturday at 5 p.m. And she's also going to be performing during our cosplay showcase, which, judges will need time to deliberate, things like that. She will be playing during different segments of the showcase, which now occurs both Saturday and Sunday.
Oh,
So we
cool.
expanded cosplay to 2 days as well because we wanted people who maybe could only come on Saturday feel left out. Um, and it's actually kind of exciting. We've doubled the prize pool essentially for the cosplay so that people both days will have the opportunity to win prizes and compete and show off their cosplay. So that's a bit of an aside, but yeah, so she'll be on stage multiple times over. And then the last but far from least two acts that we have on Saturday are Shadow Realm at 3:30 p.m. and Premium Vintage at 2 p.m. Killer lineup of music. Colt and Jonathan really hit it out of the park on this year. They always do a great job, but it's challenging trying to recruit live acts for 2 solid days and
Mhm.
then schedule them around other types of content. So, it's exciting. It's a lot of fun, and I always love popping back into the concert hall, the main stage when the bands are doing their thing, and just kind of watching people take it in from the games and or not because I if I'm last year we had arcade machines wrapping the back wall of the concert hall. People were there playing video games, playing arcade games while listening to music. And I'm pretty sure we're doing that again this year.
Well, so I'm assuming it's pgx.com, right? I know that's what I Google and I find it, but I don't
Yeah,
know
well,
if
I'm
that
glad that that works. It's actually really, really simple. It's pittsburghgamingexpo.com.
okay.
It's the full name of the show, spelled out, no spaces, no funny characters. It's just pittsburghgamingexpo.com. Don't go shortening Pittsburgh, all my Yinzer friends out there. I know we love to do it, and we like to make it PG, PGH. It's full pittsburghgamingexpo.com spelled out. All this information is on the website. We've got more information coming. Please be patient with us. We are a small team, and updates that I wanted to make aren't made yet because we're having this conversation. So like that gives you an idea of how small of a team it is. It's like if one of us aren't doing something, that's probably why it ain't getting done because there's only so many hours in a day.
Yeah, the only other thing I think we didn't mention, ticket prices, just if anyone's curious and kind of wanting to know how much to plan for.
Yeah, let me pull it up real quick so I don't misquote my. So we are we've made some quality of life improvements this year. We've changed who our ticket processor is. Our badge processor is it's pretty much all embedded in the website now. No more you're going to be redirected to another totally separate website. Any of that, it's all pretty much implemented into the website. So we have, I think at the time that this broadcasts, it will have ended, but for the sake of letting people know, we have two VIP tiers this year. We have a treasure hunter VIP tier. One is the Citadel bundle, and the other one is the Fantasy bundle. And really, the major difference between those are the style of T-shirt that you get. So the Citadel bundle is all very Mass Effect. It's the Mass Effect theme, and then the Fantasy bundle. Well, even though like some crummy things have happened in the last couple of years with a certain massive RPG franchise, it is 50 years of it, and that's still a pretty special thing. And so it's themed off of the Fantasy bundle is themed off of that very beloved moniker of D&D. So there's those two tiers, and they're currently $130. But that gets you a weekend badge, it gets you a T-shirt, it gets you a bunch of other swag. Last year we had a whole bunch of stuff in there. We had we had magnets, we had a specific D20, branded D20, we had stickers, your T-shirt, you got a special bag, drawstring bag, and probably some other things. Enamel pins, a bunch of stuff. Things will be a little different in the bags this year, but it's still going to be cool stuff. We actually are doing a full set of dice with a dice bag this year. We thought that was a little more on target than the magnets. So we're going to be swapping out the magnets and not doing those unless there's some clamoring for us to do those again. We will bring them back in future years. But I thought, well, people like having things to play their games with. So let's give a full set of dice to accompany that D20 that we gave out last year, and let's give them something to put them in. So it's going to be a PGX themed branded dice bag that they'll get, and they're pretty quality dice. The dice that we're getting this year are from Roll for Initiative, which I actually really like their products. I have, as you can see, right on hand here, some of their large sets of dice. I really like them. So hopefully people will be pretty pleased with those. Then moving into our standard badge tiers, a weekend badge, so Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, full access to the show, after fees is $84. So it's $80, the badge price, and then fees and taxes might be a little bit more than $84. But yeah, the base price of the badge is $80. Then on Friday, the Friday badge is $40, and Saturday is $45, and Sunday is $35. And as always, something we've started doing a couple of years ago. Actually, we thought it's getting, and then we doubled down on it and expanded the age range. Children 12 and under still get in for free 2 with every badge, and you can add them onto your purchase right inside the cart now. So we'll know when you show up to check in. Oh, yeah, and here's your 2 badges for your kids to go along with your badge. And so if you buy 2 badges, you get 4 kids in for free. You buy 3 badges, you get 6 kids in.
You uphold my rule of child containment.
Yes, we will. They must be accompanied children. They must be accompanied.
My wife and I have a running joke, and that because she likes to get all our nieces and nephews together and go do things for a week in the summer. And my kind of running joke is that my rule is that we should have as many adult hands as we have children to keep track of.
Yes, and that's why we limit it to 2 per badge, because you can hold one on either side. You won't have much fun that way. But I mean, it's hard to play video games if you're full. But let them play games that you play next. That works out. I get it. My wife and I have to play zone defense. We got 3 kids, and it gets easier as they get older. But yeah, it obviously if you buy 3 badges, in order to get 6 children in, you need to have 3 adults. Those badges need to go to people ideally over the age of 20 to watch and care for those children. We're very good at repatriating children with parents. We learned that last year. We do it rather quickly. We would rather to do it though.
Oh, of course, right? That's yeah. I will say too, one of my first year at PGX, I got to witness someone, and I think this was someone from the 501st Legion, the Star Wars cosplay group. But I got to witness someone in full stormtrooper armor helping a little girl pick her candy up off the floor, which was quite
He
amusing.
he probably knocked it on the floor.
I didn't see that part.
No, I know. No, the guys from the 501st are great. He probably just didn't see her and walked into her.
Well, no, I mean, this was like, slightly more than toddler age child.
You're
So
right.
they may have just dropped it on their own.
And the visibility in the stormtrooper helmets are terrible. I don't know how you see out of those things.
Oh my. All right. Well,
But yeah. So I mean, there's a lot going on, a lot of value, and there's a bunch of new merch on the website too. Stuff that we've never had before, beanies and sweatpants and a couple of different styles of hooded sweatshirts this year. So yeah, definitely check it out, and we hope to see you there.
well, it is, well, like I said, I signed up to run games. So I intend on being there. Plus, you're close to my house, so
Well, that helps.
right?
So I mean, we've eliminated every excuse for you.
Pretty much. All right. Well, I'll leave this up to you. Do you want to do game of the week, or do you want to just call it, because we're already over an hour and a half?
Yeah, let's do it. We're here now.
All right.
I mean,
Game of the
I
week.
brought them.
Game of the week. Game of the week.
Game of the week. I'm gonna keep mine short because I think I talked about this before, and the only reason why, because it is very late, and I would have more books in my hand, but I realized my copy of Death in Space is up on my headboard, and I didn't wake my wife. So my game of the week is, I'm cheating.
Board things.
Play more board games. Borg games, not board games. Play more Borg games. And you know why I want to play more Borg games? It goes back to that experience that I talked about earlier with I literally ran the starter adventure in Morkborg for my wife and son in the van while we waited for my daughters at field hockey practice. Like, yeah, I'm going to give you character sheets, and we're going to play Theater of the Mind, and we're going to roll on a dice tray in the middle of the truck or the minivan or whatever. And guess what? I don't need any dice. So just you two need to roll. And they had a lot of fun with it. And I was like, I have these books. I have all these books already. I need to play more. So yes, play more Borg games. I planned on trying to run Pirate Borg while I was at the beach. But my caveat for that is always, I can't justify playing tabletop RPGs at the beach if the weather is not absolutely horrendous, and we had a gorgeous week. So I prepped the Cavern of Cursed Tears for my family for Pirate Borg, and never got to run it. So game of the week is to play more Borg.
Awesome. Now, the board games they're so quick, they're so fun. They're just attitude, and they're great. I own in print Morkborg Cyborg, Vast Grim, and I know I have at least a couple more in PDF. So
yeah, there's off the top of my head, the ones that there's one other game. It is Mothership. I want to try Mothership.
I have it. I have the
deluxe box
at PGX. It was incredible.
Yeah. Baron DeRop is why I bought it. And yeah, he's like, "Oh, you need to buy this." And I was like, I really didn't spend the money at the moment. And I went and I called Phil, and he goes, "Yeah, I have the deluxe version." I'm like, you would. And so I went and I got it, and I'm so happy I got it. It just oozes, atmosphere. And as I'm reading through it, I'm like, wait, this feels a lot like Aliens. And I talked to Baron, and Baron's like, that's because Aliens admits they ripped off, ripped off, maybe not the right word. They drew inspiration of the core mechanics of Mothership for Alien, and then layered in all stuff on top. And Mothership is the other game that I absolutely need to try to figure out an opportunity to either run it or play it. I'm really intrigued by like the, the pre-written material, like audio files and things like that to like just really dial in that atmosphere. Um, yeah. So two things: play more Borg and kill my players in Mothership.
All right. Well, I'm going to shout out a game that I know one person on our Discord has been very vocal about enjoying, and that is a game called Outgunned. It's from a little company called Two Little Mice. It is, well, to read the description, Outgunned is a cinematic action RPG inspired by classics of the genre, from Die Hard to True Lies, passing through James Bond, Atomic Blonde, Kingsman, Ocean's 11, Hot Fuzz, and John Wick. I have not gotten a chance to personally play this. I know they have a lot of stuff out for it for some like kind of other flavors. Reading about it real quick, like I said, I do know people who have said they've played it, they've had a blast. Mechanics, it's an original system, small pools of D6, but unlike a lot of games where you're adding up your dice, you're not in Outgunned. In Outgunned, you're looking to get 2, 3, 4 of a kind.
Okay.
So, actually less math than a lot of games if you're not a fan of math.
Yeah, just looking for matching faces.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact,
Okay.
there are custom dice available for it that just have symbols from what it looks like, but you don't need them because it's literally
Right.
about matching. So whatever. Currently,
And you said it's D6s?
Yes. Yes.
That's
There's
so
a
cool.
link in the green room channel right above where we're talking if you want to follow it on drive through.
Okay.
PDF right now will set you back like $19 for the core book. But I think, like I said, from what I understand, it's supposed to be a really fun game to play. Like I said, I know Blue Nova on our Discord server has been rather enthusiastic about it. So I'm going to give them a little shout out this week because, hey, people are telling me it's cool. So all that being said, thanks for coming on Wizz and talking about PGX and all the fun people can expect to have. And, go check it out. Like you said, PittsburghGamingExpo.com. They're all over assorted socials.
Yeah, you can find it all on our website, but essentially our primaries are Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and X, I guess. I'll never get used to that. And Threads are our primaries. And we have a YouTube channel as well. We don't do a whole lot on there, but we recap videos previous years. So if you're curious what PGX is all about, and you're a visual person, you can go there and you can just watch the previous years and you can see how the show has grown and evolved.
Okay.
So thanks, Steve. I appreciate you having me on. I really do. Forget it. I do thoroughly enjoy it, and I'm flattered that you'd like to have me on,
Look,
have any of us on from the crew to talk to you.
it's a fun show. For in all honesty, you reached out to us to start this whole relationship off.
It's true. It's true.
But like, look, it's a local show for Steve and I, but it's a big enough show that like if you wanted to come in for the weekend, it's a viable thing.
Yeah. No, absolutely. People come from all over the country for it. So, yeah, there's definitely a lot to do, and we have partnerships too with all the hotels in Monroville. Just outside, Monroville is like 20 minutes outside of the city of Pittsburgh, so you can fly in. There's a major airport. You can fly in and get to the area, within a reasonable amount of time. And if you use our official hotel partners, it actually does help the show out too. So yeah, check out the hotel booking link if you're thinking about coming in for it, and spend the weekend with us. Make it a long one. Check out Pittsburgh. It's an amazing city. I love it. We have lots to offer beyond just one of the coolest gaming conventions in the region. It's also got a lot of other cool stuff going on for it. So it's worth a trip, in my opinion.
So, like I said, thank you so much for coming on, having a chat. And I think with that, all our links for be it our Discord, if you feel like throwing us some money in Patreon, anything like that, email info, all that stuff is down in the notes below. There'll be links to there'll be links to the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo site, all that stuff in the description below. So yeah, check us out. Like, share, subscribe, all that fun, happy stuff that everyone's supposed to say. And I think with all that, just want to remind everyone to be kind to each other and get out there and play some RPGs.
Intro and outro music by the band 12 Noon. You can email us at meandsteverpg@gmail.com. You can find us on Twitter and RPGs. Find us on Facebook at Me and Steve RPG Podcast, on Discord at Me and Steve RPGs, and as always, all of these links are in the show notes. Thank you, and be kind to one another.
How much for the cigar?
Cigar, $20, dog. You gotta go down the street to the store and buy that.